Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics. Busy day. There's going to be at least 2 videos. First up is the most remarkable Prime Minister's Question Times I can remember for a while, and it's been quite remarkable recently. The first thing to be noted was that a lot of Brexiteer cabinet members were absent from the front bench today. On a day when the Prime Minister needed full support and to push her bill, they completely abandoned her. There seemed to be a view that she won't even be able to push her bill through for a vote, let alone get it passed. Now, if the Prime Minister can't even bring a bill to vote, then that would be yet another quite staggering achievement for Theresa May, who has achieved already quite historic levels of failure to get her own manifesto pledges, her primary legislation, through Parliament. Has there ever been a time like this? And how much is down to Theresa May herself and how much is down to the quite unprecedented issue of delivering an impossible concept such as the Brexit as some people understand it? There's also a feeling of anger amongst cabinet members, which I'm going to need to draw on at the end here, because the bill was not what they thought they agreed on in a cabinet meeting just before her speech yesterday. So, she said that cabinet agreed her plan, which, yes, they had. But then in her speech yesterday, she said other things that she hadn't got agreement in cabinet for. Not that the plan was actually different. It just emphasised things that were already in the agreement anyway. For example, saying that Parliament would be allowed a vote on tying the agreement to a public vote. That's not a concession from her. Parliament can do that anyway. It doesn't need the Prime Minister's permission. Or indeed, she talked about the temporary customs union. But the withdrawal agreement already contains that. That's not new at all. All her additions were simply things that perhaps the general public weren't aware of being in the original agreement, because almost nobody, even those who somehow have very strong opinions on it, have actually read it. When it comes to the leader of the opposition to ask questions, so Jeremy Corbyn stood up and he chose to focus on underfunding in schools. Now, yes, this is a serious issue, but it's not an issue that he was ever going to trap the Prime Minister on. And I think a number of people, myself included, found it very strange that he didn't query the Prime Minister on the issue of the 25,000 jobs she's just pissed away by allowing British Steel to collapse. Many of the questions from various other MPs focused on a range of Northern Ireland issues, particularly Conservative MPs, from veterans being prosecuted to trying to restore the Assembly to abortion laws. Now, when it came to May's Brexit statement, Mark Francois, who is the bellicose Brexiteer of the Conservatives, deliberately at that point got up and walked right past the Prime Minister and out of the chamber. In a spectacular act of disrespect. I don't think I've ever seen a Prime Minister being treated with so little respect by their own party in full public view. Even when at the end of their time, and they're always unpopular within their own party at the end of their time. I mean, that's what determines the end of their time. Really quite extraordinary. Corbyn pointed out when she'd made her non-statement that her deal has no changes in it whatsoever, which is true. He also called again for a general election. Theresa May replied that MPs should back the deal and then amend it to deal with specific objections later. Now, I've already said that's the view I would take. Nicky Morgan, though, she's a supporter of Theresa May's agreement, urged the Prime Minister not to bring the bill before the House in early June, arguing that its defeat would bring revoking Article 50 into sharp focus for the vast majority who want to avoid a no-deal Brexit. And what I think she's really getting at is that if the deal is voted down again, which of course it's going to be, it removes options for supporters of a soft Brexit. Nobody who follows Theresa May is going to produce an agreement that leaves the EU with any strong ties with the remaining members. Everyone knows that. So you narrow down the options to only no Brexit or no deal. And the fear is, with voting down this deal, is if you're a Brexiteer, you fear that it might lead to no Brexit at all. If you're a Remainer, you can fear that it leads to a no-deal Brexit, because both of those are still, of course, on the table. Now, my personal view is that we have for too long kicked the can down the road, and it's costing our economy and people's livelihoods all the time, as today has shown yet again. It's right that an option should be crossed off so that we can move to a final resolution. I would have liked the option to have been crossed off be a no-deal Brexit. But if at the end of the day the soft Brexit turns out to be the least popular in Parliament, so be it. We need to start crossing things off, bin them in room 101 and then keep moving forward. And in many ways, if the only options left are between no deal and no Brexit, then Parliament might finally get its arse into gear as the options come into sharp focus. Because what is most definitely going to happen is that the bill will be defeated. I think there are some MPs showing support for it, but they all seem to be Labour. As I say, the view amongst at least some Labour MPs is that if you get the bill through to the second reading, that of course allows you to amend it, and you can then try and amend it with a confirmatory public vote with Remain as an option. And if you can't get that amendment, well, you just vote it down at that stage. Nothing is lost. Pretty much as I was describing, as I say, in an earlier video. It's certainly something I would seek to do as a Labour MP as a way forward. And for a Remainer, it has two massive advantages. One, it allows for the possibility of a public vote with Remain as an option without committing to Brexit. Because remember, just because you vote in favour of the bill at the first reading doesn't mean you have to at the second reading. And if it needed your votes to pass it in the first reading, it'll still need them at the second reading. The second big advantage is it would cause even more divisions within the Conservative Party. Or, well, the same divisions, but larger cracks, shall we say. But the opposition to it came from everywhere, and not just from the hardline Brexiteers, which is understandable within her own party, but also moderate supporters, I've said. The agreement doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell. So we're all just now waiting to see what happens as one chapter of Brexit is going to come to a close and another one is about to begin. And another thought occurred to me. So when Theresa May steps down as leader, is she going to quit the Commons or remain as a backbencher for the rest of the Parliament? There'd certainly be plenty of room to find a seat if you look at the picture behind me. This was Prime Minister's Question Times today. For those who aren't really aware, Prime Minister's Question Times is a big event. Packed. Absolutely packed, the Commons is. They all want to ask their questions. They all want to hear what she's got to say. Really empty. Massively empty. It shows loads of MPs missing, especially I want you to know from her own party. Now, there were gaps all over the place, but from her own party, there's hardly any bugger there. And it just demonstrates the utter irrelevance that they see in May as Prime Minister now. It's like a really strong statement that they don't care what she's got to say because she's no longer in charge. But I got the impression that those MPs that weren't there aren't just lounging about somewhere else. They're in urgent discussions as to how to get rid of her now. They don't want to wait for her deal to be sunk in early June. They want her removed immediately. There's another meeting of the 1922 committee today, which is the group that represents Conservative MPs. And I have heard well-placed rumours that the Cabinet is moving to oust May. They certainly have abandoned her in the chamber. And the implication is that they're going to give her an ultimatum. Either she resigns voluntarily, but right now, or they're going to change the rules of the committee to allow for another vote of no confidence to be issued straight away this week. Now that, of course, would do more damage to the party, so it may be that she could be persuaded that her time is up and she'd better just leave relatively gracefully. Of course, these are just rumours, and although they seem to be well-placed rumours, they are just rumours. We'll have to wait and see. I guess no more than a few hours will tell us, and certainly we would find out tomorrow. So I hope you found that interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe for further content. There's at least one more video coming out today. And until next time, I'll see you later.